Okay, so we thought that Jayden Quaintance wasn't back, at least according to reports, but based on the post that Kentucky is putting out on social media, he's playing.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawn. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, Jayden Quaintance is back. At least it looks like it. We're going to dive into that on today's show. Also on today's episode, Kentucky's roster. It's getting bigger, it's getting taller, it's getting stronger, at least for the most part. We'll dive into that as well as a preview of Kentucky versus Eastern Michigan. This is a game that I think the Wildcats should win, and there's a difference between what they should do offensively in this game and what they could do. We talked about it a little bit on yesterday's episode. I want to dive into more detail on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if their bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can download the FanDuel app today. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms, and if you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show, and if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So, at least according to posts on social media, Jayden Quaintance is back. And there were reports coming out of, I believe it was John Rothstein that was putting these out yesterday on social media, saying that according to his sources, Jayden Quaintance had not been cleared to participate in non-contact practice, and he was still recovering from his ACL tear. We have seen videos of him practicing. We have seen pictures of him dunking in slides with Ortega away in a boot, unfortunately. But Jayden Quaintance, it seems like, is back participating in non-contact practice. Why? Well, because earlier today, Kentucky posted on their social media 2 different pictures of Jayden Quaintance at practice, in uniform, shooting and working on his handle. It looks like actually, he's going through a cone drill, actually. Looks like he's participating in non-contact practice to me. They had only cleared him or approved him to do stuff that was off court, outside of practice, I should say. And yet here he is in the facility working. You can see Mark Fox in the background of one of these photos. So he's practicing. Now, he may not be practicing with everybody else right now, but at least he's going through non-contact stuff. So throw out the reports that came out literally, I think, a day ago. Jayden Quaintance is back in the facility, and he is getting ready to go. Potential Defensive Player of the Year, not just in the SEC, but in the country. Hopefully he's fully ready to go by the time the season starts. I'm not going to belabor the point. I've talked about it enough on this show. We'll probably touch on it whenever he's finally ready. He looks good to go just based on videos and photos. He looks like he's healthy and on track, and not just on track, but also ahead of schedule. I think that this staff is trying to play it down. That is just my assumption. That's not anything that I've heard in terms of reporting or insider information. I think they're trying to play it down, but he looks better than what people are saying, like to hold off and hopefully he's ready and all this kind of stuff. I think that he will be here ready to go much earlier than we anticipate. Really excited to see Jayden Quaintance back. And I know that we talked about yesterday, if he's not ready to go, kind of what are Kentucky's options? Brandon Garrison has to take a step forward. Malachi Marino has to have a high floor as a player whenever he is able to get on the court, which we're going to talk about him and BG in a second. Some muscle being added, I think, to this roster, and I'm really, really impressed with that. Reese Potter also, I think, could be somebody that steps out there in very limited action and is somebody that can be a legitimate threat from deep. He was at Miami of Ohio. And then obviously Andrea Yelovich at 6'11" can play the 5. Now, should he play the 5? I'm not sure, but he definitely can. So Kentucky's got a lot of different guys that they can rotate in there. But their potential NBA lottery pick, All-American, Defensive Player of the Year type guy, Jayden Quaintance, is back in the facility practicing. I could not be more excited. You need that defense. Like, you really, 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 really need that defense. Actually, and we'll probably talk about this um, on Monday. I apologize. It might be tomorrow's episode. One of you actually messaged me about this, saying I'm really interested about your thoughts about like the preseason Evan Mia ratings. For context here, Kentucky is 10th nationally, and their defensive rating, if I'm not mistaken, is projected to be the 9th best in the country. Yeah, they are projected to have the 9th best defense in all of college basketball. That'll get it done. We'll talk about more of like the context surrounding that, all the different numbers that Evan Mia projects for Kentucky just as a team. I don't think they have like player specific stuff yet, but I will be addressing that soon. It's interesting. I'm excited about it because the preseason analytics coming out of Ken Pom and Evan Mia last year were much lower than I anticipated. I think Kentucky was like in the preseason like 40s over on Ken Pom. So we'll dive into that on tomorrow's episode, I would assume. But JQ, if Kentucky's going to have a top 10 defense, he's got to be out there and he's got to be healthy. Looks like he's absolutely getting there. All right, we'll continue to break down Kentucky's roster as a whole. I think they're getting bigger. I think they're getting better. They're definitely getting stronger, at least according to the new roster update in terms of like height and weight. Before we dive into all of that, though, I will tell you guys about our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, guys. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving money every time you order, by the way. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Kentucky, I talked about this, I think yesterday, actually. Ty Bryant with his 2 interceptions is what kept Kentucky in that game. They could not run any sort of competent offensive play consistently. Brad White was carrying the load, I think, defensively, and they got some turnovers, thanks to Ty Bryant, that helped them kind of come through, keep that game competitive. And it was no hesitation, man. It was back to back. They were not playing around, no delay, 2 picks that gave Kentucky 10 points. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance is not a fluke. Kentucky's secondary and their linebacking core is really, really good. I'm really impressed. This is not a joke. Ty Bryant, I think, could be on a streak here. And just like Ty Bryant delivered for Kentucky, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order. You can stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, continuing along here on the Thursday, technically it's coming out Friday, but the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. We'll have a game recap for you tomorrow. We'll talk about Evan Mia ratings. Hopefully Kentucky is able to come away with a blowout victory against Eastern Michigan. That game happening later on at night. I believe it is 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. I will be watching that game. Actually, there's a decent chance I'll be live after that game. So y'all make sure you tune into the Locked On Kentucky YouTube channel for that breakdown, for that recap. We'll get to the preview here in a little bit, just a couple of different stats that you guys need to know, things that they could do, things that they should do. This game will not be close. I'll just go ahead and let you know. But first, I do want to look at the updated roster stuff for Kentucky basketball here. They have shockingly gotten a lot stronger for a lot of different kids. There have been a lot of weight added for a large number of this roster. Specifically, we'll get to JQ here in just a little bit. But we'll start with the top. If I'm not mistaken, Kentucky Sports Radio put out like the whole chart breaking down the new and the old heights. So credit to them for putting this table together. Obviously, you can go find these numbers over on UK Athletics, the website breaking down the roster heights and weights and whatnot. But Otega Owe has gained 5 pounds. He's still the same height, 6'4". He's now 220 pounds. Denzel Aberdeen, still 6'5", but he's gained 5 pounds, 195 pounds as compared to the 190 he was a season ago at Florida. Jasper Johnson. Now, pause for water here, sorry. I wanted to see him gain somewhere between 5 to 10 pounds. If he could get to 15, that would have been awesome this offseason. Probably unrealistic. He is up 5 pounds from $175 to 180. He is now 6'5" instead of 6'4". At 6'5", 180 pounds, I would, at some point in his Kentucky career, I'd love to see him get up to, honestly, around where Denzel Aberdeen's at right now, somewhere between 190 to 195. If you can add that muscle to your frame, you're going to be way, way, way more difficult to stop getting downhill and finishing at the rim. Finishing through contact, I think, is something that if Jasper adds that to his game, he is a complete true scorer because he's a really good spot-up guy, really good shooter. But if you can improve on what you're doing around the rim, which is not bad, I think that if you can add some weight, you'll definitely improve there. KM Williams is still 6'8", but he's gained 15 pounds this offseason. He was 190 pounds at Tulane. He is now 205 pounds at Kentucky. 6'8", 205. That's your small forward. Love it. Absolutely love it. We'll get to another small forward here that came in wiry and has already added a lot of weight, actually. I'm shocked. Andrei Jelovich, they did not have his old weight at 6'11", but he is 225 pounds now. That's a really nice stretch four for you to have. I probably wouldn't put that at the 5 a ton. That's probably your third best option there. But Jelovich at 225, 6'11", that's a huge human being for Kentucky to have at their 4. Colin Chandler, 6'5". He was 202 a season ago. He is now 205 pounds. So just 3 pounds. I don't really think he needed to add much to his frame. He seemed like a pretty physical, really solid defender, I guess I should say, for Kentucky a season ago. I think he could only get better there. Trent Noah, I thought he was like 6'5", or I thought he was like 6'6", 6'7", and no, that's not a 6'7" joke. Please don't. You can. Who cares? It's funny. He is 6'5". He is still 220 pounds. Didn't really think he needed to add anything to his frame. Although I will say, just based on like the different photos I think we saw earlier this offseason, like he is physically like just looks like he's got more muscle to him, which is impressive. He was already built like a linebacker. Brandon Garrison has lost 5 pounds, 6'10". He is now 245 as opposed to the 250 he was a season ago. I think this is fine. If he can become more agile and more mobile, that's probably the best thing for him to do. He's already a huge player for Kentucky down low. If he is going to play more of that tweener 4-ish type role, he's going to be like I guess a stretch 5 to some extent. I think being a little bit more agile is definitely preferred. This is the player outside of JQ that shocked me the most, and not in a good way. Jalen Lowe was 6'3", almost 190 pounds. He's 6'3", $188 at Pitt. His new weight is down 18 pounds. You heard me correctly. He's down 18 pounds. He is now 6'3", 170. Not too excited about my lead point guard being that light. Defensively, I don't have any problems with him being a $170 offensively. He's really shifty, really crafty. Lighter you get, faster you get. I'm cool with that. Being able to defend at 170 pounds and questioning whether or not he's actually 6'3", just based on what we saw during the NBA draft combine. I don't know about this. Not too fired up about that. However, that leads us right into the player that I am most fired up about and his progression. So Jayden Quaintance at Arizona State was 6'9", 215 pounds, right? Huge human being, just a mountain of a kid. He is now 6'10.5", so he's gained 1.5 inches of height. 6'10.5", 255 pounds. He's gone up from 215 to 255. How insane is that? He was a freak of nature at ASU. He's going to be really, really hard to get through at the 5 this year. Something that I really hope Kentucky does this year. Pause for water again. Something that I really hope that they do this year is play zone. I think Kentucky could really, really do a number playing zone this year. Why? Sorry, got an ice cube. They are tall, they are lengthy, and that's kind of how Mark Pope has built his rosters in the past, where you've got kids with insane wingspans, insane height. I think Kentucky could really do themselves a favor by playing more zone and anchoring Jayden Quaintance down in that paint instead of drawing him away from the ball. I really think that Kentucky should try and implement that a little bit more this season to keep players to a designated area and to just kind of use your size to make teams try and get through you, which I don't know if they will be able to consistently, or shoot out of it, which only really talented teams will be able to do. Jayden Quaintance now being 255, almost 6'11", put him down in that paint and tell him not to leave. Far too often during his freshman year at Arizona State, do you see in his highlight reels him having to recover after getting beat off the dribble because he's too far away from the basket, and his wingspan makes up for it, right? He's able to recover, get the block on whoever's driving to the rim, and it's insane. It's freakish almost that he's able to recover and just he's got that crazy of a wingspan. But I would like to see him anchored in the paint more, so that he doesn't have to do that as much. And Kentucky's players don't get out of position that much. Anyway, we've talked a lot about JQ. Braden Hawthorne is still 6'8", but he's up 15 pounds. He's up from $175 to 190. That is what we like to see. That is exactly these three players right here, Lowe, Quaintance, Hawthorne, are the three players that I'm shocked by one way or another. Hawthorne at 6'8", $190. Now you can really start to see a path for him as far as playing time goes if he's able to be as productive of a spot-up player as he was in high school. Love this for Hawthorne. Diabate is up 5 pounds. He's 6'7", 220. Malachi Marino is up 20 pounds. He's now 7 feet tall, 250 pounds. Kentucky's got some muscle down there at the 5. Reese Potter is up 15 pounds. He is now 7'1", 230. Walker Horn is up 5 pounds. Zach Tao is still 6'5", 220. Kentucky's got some crazy height. You'll notice here, not a single player on this team, not even walk-ons, not a single player on this team below 6'3". Everybody is above 6'3". I love that. Absolutely love that. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that are 6'10" or taller. And honestly, I think 4 of them are going to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, just want to make sure I counted correctly. So really excited about that. All right, we're gonna get to Kentucky Eastern Michigan here. I think that this game should be a blowout. I mean, you really shouldn't expect much from the Eagles. I think Kentucky can establish themselves offensively in this one. But I want to see them experiment a little bit. We'll dive into that here in just a second. Before we do that, though, tell you guys about our friends over at Mazda. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. With more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else, they craft cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention with how we craft every single model. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through just about any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, baby. FanDuel is making sure you can't miss anything. Make sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer as well. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 buckaroos, $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I have loved using FanDuel because it lets me kind of get involved in the action just about any way that I like to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, jumping in as the live action unfolds. It helps me keep tabs on my fantasy lineup, which things are going a little bit better this week. I was 1-3 through my 4 leagues. Through the first week of NFL action, but I'm a little bit more confident this week. It's also thanks to FanDuel. I feel like I'm starting to get into a little bit of a groove there. It's quick, easy. It's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So, are you ready to play? I think you are. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. I am a thirsty individual tonight. Wrapping up today's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Kentucky's going to blow out Eastern Michigan. It's not going to be close. You should tune into this game and enjoy it. Enjoy it as much as you can, because I don't know if Kentucky is going to score more points this season than they will against the Eastern Michigan Eagles. I think Kentucky is going to be able to do one thing very, very well in this game, and that is run the crap out of the ball. Through 2 games, Eastern Michigan opponents are averaging 40 points per game. They are giving up 8.1 yards per play and 7.2 yards per run. 7.4 yards per run. Their 2 opponents, like we mentioned on yesterday's show, are Texas State and LIU, Long Island University. They lost both of those games. If Kentucky can do anything tomorrow, it is run the ball with Dante Dowdle and Seth McGowan. I think they will be able to crush Eastern Michigan on the ground. It could be ugly. However, that's what Kentucky should do. They should run the ball. They should score upwards of 40, and this game should not even be close. By the way, Eastern Michigan, their offense is like nothing to scoff at so far. I mean, it's 25 points per game. It's 5.8 yards per play. That's not bad. It's like average. It's fine. But again, they've played Texas State and LIU. Almost no chance here that they score more than 17 against Kentucky. Maybe, if that. Kentucky should dominate this game. They should. Here's what I would like for them to do. Here's what they could do. They could throw the ball around a little bit with Cutter Boley. I really do think that the best thing for you to do is go out there and let Cutter Boley get comfortable. Because you have an insanely difficult schedule coming up where you're not going to have the ability to just like test certain things, right? Look at the next 5 games. At South Carolina, at Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, at Auburn. All of those teams are ranked in the top 25. You have to be able to now, against Eastern Michigan, find out if you can get a little bit aggressive in the passing game, if you can be explosive in the passing game. And we all understand what the offense is, right? This is a ground and pound offense that wants to control the ball, control time of possession, and wants to give the ball to the running back as much as possible, and everything's kind of predicated off of that. You're not going to really be throwing the ball a ton downfield. Frankly, the fact that Kentucky's tight ends have been as involved as they have so far, it's not a shock to me. This is just how Bush wants to do things. This is just how Stoops wants to do things. But I would like to be able to find out if you can throw the ball a little bit to your receivers, because I don't know if the running game's going to be there this entire year. And also, I'd like to see Cutter get a little bit more comfortable, because whenever he's going to be in tough spots, he's got to be able to have at least something to go to be able to say, okay, well, at least I know that this is something that we can do. This is something that we can do vertically. This is something that we can do over the middle of the field. This is an opportunity to go out there and experiment a little bit, win by 3 scores or more, and maybe the final score is not the prettiest thing in the world, but at least you saw things on the field that Kentucky tried, and you're excited about moving forward. If you can have any sort of confidence in your passing game after this one, heading into South Carolina, I think that's good. I think it's a really good thing for Kentucky, because South Carolina might not be as good as their ranking says they are. I think Vanderbilt will probably test them a little bit, if not win outright. This is a game where you can try something different. Watch Kentucky run for like 300 plus and put the ball in the air like 12 times. I think Kentucky's going to win this game in a blowout. I don't think it's going to be close. I would like to see Boley get comfortable. I don't know if we're going to see it. We'll see what happens, though. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDahl_. Follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.